So hey, World of Warcraft, Warlords of Draenor patch 6.2, and flying over the old world to Blizzard's first real complex raid, Blackwing Lair, back from vanilla to hunt some transmog gear. Why Blackwing Lair? Well, it's some of the best looking gear sets and some of the best looking weapons in the entire game. I want to get some one-hand Maladef swords for this Death Knight. And Warlords of Draenor is kind of a mess, so might as well hunt for transmog gear and make gold and everything else while you're getting ready for Legion. Blackwing Lair was the first really designed raid instance, I guess I would say, on Blizzard's part. Molten Core is more or less a tunnel that has mobs in it. Blackwing Lair has a bunch of really complex encounters, and it's still probably the biggest tier-to-tier jump in difficulty in the entire game. And these were 40-man raids that frequently had 1 or 2 or 3 points of failure that had very little recovery chance. That if you had someone that couldn't do what it was, or the fight was too chaotic and you missed the mechanic, wipe. If your tanks didn't hand off aggro right, wipe. Frequently, there are 2 encounters that more or less kill tanks as part of the mechanic, so you have to have multiple tanks, which you only kind of needed as a luxury in Molten Core, except for one fight. And none of this is really hard to deal with at level 100, of course, because you 2 or 3 shot everything, except for the first mob in the instance, Razorgore. First boss and the first encounter. And the problem with Razorgore is that you may 1 or 2 shot or 3 shot everything, but most of the fight is the goal is he's not supposed to die. You're supposed to use him and work with him and help him, well, rather forcibly mind control him and make him break eggs, but you need to keep him safe from all these orcs and Dragon King come out to kill him. And that's hard because this was a 40-man fight, and you're supposed to have 40 people to control these things. So while they're easy to kill, it's very, very chaotic, and you can't accidentally hit Razorgore. So how do you do this with one person? Well, if you try to do it the traditional way of breaking on and off the orb, you're going to wind up probably dying. But there is a little way of a cursor in the long and proud history of exploiting the Razorgore fight to get through this quite easily, and that's what we're going to do here. You see Razorgore, 448,000 hit points. That's a 2-shot from the Death Knight, and what's more, the Death Knight's AoE Howling Blast has a dot on it, so even if I only hit him once and I'm trying to clean up other stuff, Howling Blast nukes an entire area. So we can't do that. But we can start breaking eggs. And Razorgore is unhappy about this. Intruders, blah, blah, blah. You'll pay for forcing me to do this. You can see Razorgore is still just basically a big dragonkin. Blizzard didn't have that many unique models for this place yet. But they had moved on to more complex encounter design. And this was a notoriously brutal one. It was only surpassed by the one that comes after it as a guild breaker, really. Because you had to have multiple people that can control the orb, because you used to be able to get exhausted from this, and you couldn't control it back to back, which would make soloing this absolutely impossible. But they changed that so you can do it with one person. So here are the mobs. And you see they come to Razorgore, but they run away. And what I did there was, on the cursor that you can't see because of the settings, I clicked while still controlling Razorgore, I move my cursor up to the orb that my Death Knight's at and click on it like I'm standing right next to it. See, here they come. I look at the orb, and boom, off they go. Total loss of aggro. And since the Death Knight's 100, they miss. And with this fight, though, if your hunters couldn't kite, or your DPS was too bad to kill things you couldn't really kite, mages weren't good at controlling their mages, your Razorgore controls weren't good, wipe. It's the first one encounter where most of the people in the raid have to know what they're doing. And it's frequently an unrecoverable wipe, because if he dies, he will blow up the entire room, and that's it. And that's if the mobs don't kill you first. BWL has a whole bunch of mechanics that Blizzard people are still kind of divided as to whether Blizzard was ever serious about a lot of these, because it's like, did you guys think World of Warcraft was going to be a massive success, or were you thinking this was kind of the last hurrah? Because there's all sorts of really grindy, incredible, difficult access points and difficult, obscure mechanics that you'd never see in raids today. Like, everything you see is legitimately beatable by walking into it, with just gear in World of Warcraft today. That wasn't the case here. You had to take off your epic cloaks and put on a special fireproof cloak. Otherwise, you'd get one shot by a number of bosses in here. Your tanks would get killed the same way. You have the unavoidable tank deaths in the next room, and you had this fight. But there's a long and proud history of exploiting this thing, and I kind of like that Blizzard has made it so you can reach out and touch the orb without ever having to stop patrolling Razorgore, really. And therefore, there's no handoffs, there's no unnecessary breaks, and he'll finish with about half his health. Just like there, that was another handoff. And we're about done here. Here's the last one. And we're done here now. So are you. Splat. And that's why you're careful around Razorgore and do it this way, rather than running around and playing mob control.
I don't have a target.